this has such clear value, and like I love it. It is always instantly clarifying. One of the fantasies I've had about it is to use it remotely because I never work in person with people.
Yeah, let's talk about how you can use it now that's most helpful for you. Are you, you said you have used it a few times. Those were with people in person?
No, just by myself,
Oh, okay.
just to work through my own stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I find it super useful for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way I've used it so far,
Yeah,
and I haven't done any tutorials or done,
yeah,
I just
yeah.
sat down and said, okay, what the fuck is my problem? Okay, this is my problem, and assigned it like I'd watched a couple of your videos and stuff. So I just wung it, and each time it was sort of instantly clarifying, like every step of labeling something and moving a thing and drawing 10 things, framing one little thing that feels trapped was so, it's hard to explain how clarifying it is.
Yeah, people, it takes a while to, like, as soon as they start to do it, at first they're like confused, and then as soon as they start to do it, it starts to become, as you say, it's instantly clarifying, but it's also hard to explain to people before they start to do it why that is,
Yes,
because of the way it sort of changes the way you think about this thing.
yes.
The first thing I would say when you're trying to explain it to people is reassure them that that's going to be the case, that they're not going
Mm-hmm.
to get it at first. And that
Mm-hmm.
it's going to, so this is kind of weird. And it's a different way of thinking about things, sort of set their expectation to be confused. Or
Yes,
to be
yes.
confused about, because it's very different and it's unique. And so just go with it and take it step by step. And the steps are, what's the story you're going to tell? I think it helps people to think of that in terms of a title, like, when I felt bad, or how I feel in my body when I'm anxious, or what's a bad day in my anxiety like, or what's a day in my depression. These are all kind of titles that gets people thinking in terms of that storytelling. So I think that's kind of the first step, is think of, okay, what story am I going to tell about my experience? And then just start thinking of the parts of it. What are the things? And you're just kind of listing them. And that's when it starts to become clear what you're doing here. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
just getting down some, that feeling in my stomach. When my partner says a mean thing. So, what are the parts of this experience that are meaningful to it? And once they do that, then they're in a position to start playing with the cubes and moving them around. Uh,
Yes.
so then they're adding more cubes on their palette and they're moving them around. And at that point, I think it's really helpful to see other examples of what these can look like. And if you're on the tool, if you scroll down, there's a little gallery.
Let me jump onto it so I
Yeah.
can. All right. So virtual visual storytelling tool.
There's a little step by step tutorial that I think is just helpful for people to read, sort of get a idea of what they're going to do.
Okay.
And then there's the tool, and then below that, keep going, there's a bunch of examples.
All right. Wow, this is so fancy.
So I think if they kind of just browse through those, they just can get an idea of how different they can look and what you can do with them.
Oh yeah, those are great. Okay, and so let me just look at the tool real quick. So I literally just click and do stuff.
Yes, if
Oh
you
my
if you click
God.
if you click on a cube and drag it on, you'll get a little thing that says how to, to name it.
Oh, this is so great.
And then I think that if I was going to do a class, a part of the class I think would be about talking about what people have made. But I think that'll come really naturally to you. I think once you see what someone has done, it'll be,
Mhm.
because you're a curious person who is insightful into metaphor, spatial metaphor, the story that somebody's trying to tell visually. It'll be obvious to you what the questions are, that
Yeah.
to sort of probe what their meaning is. I see you, used a lot of red, and what does that mean? Or I see you've put these cubes above this other cube, or you surrounded this cube with these other cubes. What do you mean by that? If
Oh, okay, Jen, this is awesome.
and then when they're done, they can, at the bottom it says finish. They can finish it, and they'll download to their desktop the picture of their graph they made, and then they can email that to you,
Hmm.
and you can talk about it.
Wow. That's so great. Download. This is so great, Jen. This is amazing.
I think like in a session, you could be looking at the graph they sent you. They could be looking at it. They could be telling you about it, just telling you like it's a story. Well, on the right, on the left, there's green, and that's the thing that triggers my feeling in my body. That's the thing, event, and then these cubes mean this, and explain it. And I think then it'll be really obvious to you what kinds of questions you can ask to keep them talking about it and saying more
Yeah.
about it. And it might also be at that point, you'll think, well, how would, what if you remade this biograph, and, changed one thing? What if after that triggering event you did 10 deep breaths? Can you add that as a cube and then see how it unfolds differently,
Yeah.
or something, like that?
Yeah.
You could have them do it differently with something, where they would, if this is a graph of where they are now in their life and experience, could they remake it at using, where they would hope to be or where they hope to go?
That's
um,
great.
Sort of making comparisons between two things using roughly the same key.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, Jen, I'm blown away. This is great.
If you do this online group where they all use it online, they might feel like, oh, this is something that, I can really use in my life, on a regular basis, not just
Right.
either
Right.
work through my own problems internally in my head, or to do with my partner, which is, I think, also, a great way to have a, to deal with things that keep coming up in your relationship. Let's do this, let's each make one that shows our perspective, and then bring them together and talk about them. And it does that same thing, I think, in couples that it does in a group, where, if there's someone, often in a couple, there's someone who's more verbal or more, tends to, tends to dominate the conversation or steamroll their partner a little bit. This makes space for each person to,
Yeah.
to share their perspective and feel heard. I think it creates a mechanism for really good for practicing active listening skills. Listen to what the person's saying, ask follow-up questions, ask to understand more what they mean.
My whole thing is empowering people. That's what I want. I don't really want to do the sort of one-on-one, let's focus, and I sort of become the stand-in for, I mean, I know that work's important and I'm glad other people want to do it, but I really want to work on empowering people because there are just way too many people to have therapy be the only
Mm.
answer, and I think this is a really, really nice tool for that, for all the reasons you said, that it just focuses people in a new way, opens up new ways of thinking. I experienced it as just profoundly clarifying as I worked on it, like moment by moment by moment, and fun and easy. And I was like, wow, this is so great. So what I would want to do is empower people to use the tool themselves. So rather than thinking of it necessarily as you're going to get everything you want out of this workshop, instead we're going to train you to use this amazing tool that you can then use to go through whatever you want. So that's how I was thinking of it.
Ah. I love the way you put that. And I might, if you wouldn't mind, could I put that on my on a reel on
Yes,
Instagram, the
absolutely.
way you just said that. So, and I think I would, I should write it down and memorize it and say it myself, because because I really do think that that's what it can be. Not a substitute for therapy, by any means, but a tool that people can use to gain, insight into their own issues and their own complexity that they
Yeah,
have.
and the
So
empowerment piece is so huge because it is very difficult to do introspective work on your own, and you know, a lot of tools just aren't really that user friendly. This is a seriously user friendly tool. It's sort of a gateway drug for introspection. You know, I think it's really, really, really good.
in the genre of things that help people talk to their partners in a relationship, there's tons and tons of these decks of cards with prompts.
Hmm.
You know, and you know, to varying degrees of intimacy, you know, you can get, there's must be hundreds of them that are
Yeah,
available.
I've bought a few of them. I will say I haven't liked them. They
Yeah,
don't ask me the questions I want.
yeah, and that's what I think is really, it is really unique about BioGraphs, is it lets you come up with your own questions. Takes a little bit of figuring out.
I think you just need to have intro workshops.
Yeah,
I think that's the key, Jen. When I think about this, I don't think about it as being necessarily so much a product as
a method.
a method.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I avoid like the plague talking with people about their stuff if I don't like it because I'm a absolutely failure of a liar. Like I can't do it. And I'm only telling you this because my enthusiasm this is really genuine. Like I would not schedule a hour-long call to talk about anything that I mean I might be nice to a friend, but I just that I wasn't really enthusiastic about because my time is super precious to me at this point.
Yeah.
And so I just want you to know I think it's really good.
Thank you. I think you're gonna show up on my Instagram. My Instagram reel in a couple of places. It's great to talk to you, Mary. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
I so appreciate your support.